Hello again everybody, it's Stevie Stroh, and this will be hopefully a short video on a very basic demonstration on how to run DriveWire on the CoCo-Pi utilizing Michael Furman's PyDriveWire. On the desktop you'll see an icon to bring up your PyDriveWire web interface, and that is going to open up a browser on your CoCo-Pi. And the default disk 0 that's already inserted into DriveWire is Mikey's DW term, DriveWire terminal program. I'm going to leave that alone, and we're going to go over to disk 1, and we'll insert a new disk. So I'm going to go ahead and hit choose file. Now when you do this for the first time, you're probably going to be in your Pi directory when you go to choose a file. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to other locations, computer, and then media, share 1. This is where all our goodies are. And then SDC is the folder where the ultimate Coco SDC image got downloaded. I'll go to games. I'll just pull up the letter D as in Delta and pull up one of the greatest games for the color computer. Alright, so you're going to hit choose file, Daguerreoth disk, and you're going to see that it's now been inserted into disk 1, the Daguerreoth disk image. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and open up our terminal window, type in the word menu. Now before I do anything, what I want to find out, because this is a 50-50 here, when you go to your Color Computer 2 menu, and we're going to pull up a Color Computer 2 with HDB DOS. This is what supports DriveWire. And I hit enter. When you fire up the Color Computer, you've got a 50% chance of this freezing up on you. And it depends if the Becker port is enabled or not. So if you go to boot this up and the screen is frozen, hit the tab key, go to machine configuration, and make sure the Becker port is turned on. Once you've done that, you can just press F3 on your keyboard to reboot the Coco, and then that'll boot it back up, and then you should see that you have an OK prompt and that it says you have the Becker port running. So now, because I put Dungeons of Daguerreoth in disk 1, we need to type in the drive 1 command to switch to that disk. So when I go over here and I type in drive 1 and I hit enter and I type in dir, we should see there's Daguerreoth. Now actually there is, I'm not even sure which Daguerreoth disk I just chose here, but wow. Run Daguerreoth. I am not sure what the heck is going on here. Here we go. Well, that did it. So this is an interesting versions of Dungeons of Daguerreoth that is on the Color Computer Archive. And yeah, and that's a little loud. So let's see if we can't lower that volume. Anywho, so that's kind of in a nutshell how you would do it. Yeah, you would basically click on the DriveWire web user interface icon. That's going to open up your browser, and this is going to open up the web interface to PyDriveWire that's already running on your CoCo-Pi. And from here, in any one of your 4 disk slots, you would choose file, you would browse to a disk image, and then that disk image would be available in a virtual drive 0, 1, 2, or 3. So you would just type in drive 0 to mount whatever's in slot 0, type in drive 1 to mount what's in drive 1, etc. Type in dir, see what's on the disk, and then pull up that disk. So it's like having up to a 4 floppy system, but all of those floppies are being furnished to the Color Computer via DriveWire. Now the only downside to DriveWire is that the programs running on disk must not need to access that disk, because most programs use ROM calls to access the disks that is coming from a disk controller, and since we are not actually using the disk controller, those ROM calls will not work. So the only real limitation of using DriveWire to load information off disks is those programs either not need to access the disk or be written in a way where they can access the disk and not rely on the disk controller ROM to do that. So your mileage may vary on what works, but for some quick and easy way to load software, DriveWire is a way to do it. And the nice thing about this, what makes this different than doing it through your emulator, and I'll show you here for just a second. Can we just do a side by side? In the normal way you do a Coco, if I was to pull up just a normal Coco and I hit my tab key and I go to File Manager, and then I go to floppy 1 or floppy 2, I can, from this menu, I could switch out what's in there, right? But so that's one way to manage floppies. But the benefit of doing it through DriveWire is that you don't have to pull up the MAME user interface. The CoCo doesn't have to know you're switching disks because you're doing that on the back end. So if I go back here to HBD DOS, and I already know that Dungeons of Daggerath is in Drive 1. So if I type in Drive 1 and I type in DIR, right, that's all the goodies from Dungeons of Daggerath, right? But what if I go back here to DriveWire? What if I eject that disk and now I choose a different one? Instead of Dungeons of Daggerath, what if I want to pull up Demon Seed? Now Demon Seed is in that slot, and now when I go back to my CoCo and then I just type in DIR, guess what? There's the binary for Demon Seed. So it allows you to kind of on the back end flip out floppy disks and not have to do it through the emulated CoCo, which may or may not be easier depending on your environment. So at this point now, if I want to type in load m Demon, and you notice you don't hear the floppy sound on MAME because it's technically not going through the disk controller. And I want to all right, so what I've just shown you, boys and girls, is a real quick introduction on how to mount a disk using the PyDriveWire user interface and then accessing that disk on a color computer 2 or 3. Bear in mind, you might have to toggle the Becker port and reboot the CoCo to get this to work, depending on what state of mind it's in when you first fire that up. And then we can eject, and then we're out of there. So I hope this was helpful, informative, useful, and if it's not, then please submit your refund request to idon'tcare@CoCo-Pi.com. But if you have more questions for us on the CoCo-Pi project, one place to go is to go to our Discord channel and go to the CoCo-Pi channel. You'll notice that because we're running the CoCo-Pi now with the web browser, I can actually open up Discord on the CoCo-Pi, and I can even open up the CoCo-Pi.com website on the CoCo-Pi. So more information about the CoCo-Pi will be on our website. And if you go to news, as we update information, we're going to be posting little mini blog posts, like Squanchy Basic is now available, and latest XROR work in progress package is now available. So if you check the news updates as this project gets updated, you'll find them here. If you need to download the image, you can go to downloads. Here's the image. You see what Willis is talking about here? So go to CoCo-Pi.com or check us out on the Discord channel. This is Stevie Strauss saying CoCo-Pi forever.